The Oaza is a design collective based in Zagreb, founded by Nina Bačun, Ivana Borovnjak, Roberta Bratović, Tina Ivezić, Maja Kolar, and Masha Poljanec, and it was formed 10 years ago in 2013. The collective engages in designing, researching, curating, and editing various projects, including visual identities, books, campaigns, exhibitions, and other projects in print, digital, and physical space. They also develop self-initiated projects that reflect their overarching approach to design as a political and social discipline, aimed at critically questioning our everyday experiences. Today, they will present a few self-initiated projects from their multifaceted practice, including their publishing house Oaza books, and there are some samples of their books on one of the tables over there. Or the international platform Made In, a joint project of 6 organizations for 4 countries and counting, among which is also the Museum of Architecture and Design here in Ljubljana, and also Center for Creativity, which is a subset or connected institution to the Museum of Architecture and Design. The Made In project has just won the International European Union Award for Cultural Heritage, Europa Nostra Award for 2023, in the Education, Training and Skills category. And when I say recently, that was on Monday, right? Also, they are about to open an exhibition of their work in the Croatian Design Association Gallery on Friday evening. So if you're in town, in Zagreb, please go and check this out. So please welcome Maja, Ivana, and Tina. Tina is not here. Tina is in the crowd.
Tina is in the audience. She's hiding somewhere.
Yeah. So, please give applause to Oaza.
Dobro večer. Ja sam Ivana Borovnjak, sa mnom je Maja Kolar. We are just 2 of the 6 members, as Aydin said. Thank you for inviting us. It's really an honor to be here. We've been meaning to visit Indigo Festival for years, but somehow, I don't know, never got the chance. But anyway, so we are going to focus on the self-initiated projects that we do collectively, specifically those 2 that Aydin already mentioned. Maybe one of them is more known to Slovenian or Ljubljana's public because it has been going on for, I mean, in various iterations for 10 years now, thanks to also the Museum of Architecture and Design. And now it evolved into a platform of 10 partners. It's called Made In. And Maja is going to say more about this project. And I will speak about our publishing project, which is called Oaza Books. So this is our collective. From left to right, it's Tina, Nina, Betty, Masha, myself, and Maja. And we've been working together since 2013, also officially as an artistic organization. But prior to that, in various constellations since 2000s, because we also studied together in Zagreb. This is our home in Ilica Street in Zagreb, that we also share with various other artists, among others Nikola from Numen, maybe you know more about them. This is also the reason why we called ourselves Oaza 10 years ago, because we are situated on this first floor above Sahara Bar. We thought it was funny, and then I had for years problems announcing that we are what translates into oasis, basically. We design, curate, direct, and edit content for visual identities, books, campaigns, exhibitions, and digital media. And next to commissions and collaborations, we also investigate topics of interest through self-initiated, already mentioned, we like to say total design projects, which reflect this general approach to design as a political and social discipline. And among other, Maya and Masha also conducted a very big project, I mean, in terms of creation, female history of design, and we do other research projects in design as well. This is our space, some of it, and some are just images from events that we also organized. So if I would have to summarize, let's say that most of our design work is self-initiated projects, and some of the work is client-based, and also some of the members of our collective are also teaching design at School of Design, but we also are involved in informal design education. So why are we so proud of these self-initiated projects? One may say that it's like nothing particular, but we are kind of proud of it because they arise also out of necessity. In creation context, or in the past, there was very little opportunities, in fact, for designers to participate in various publishing projects, to even like make collaborations with industry. Part of us are like also formally trained as product designers. So actually, instead of just sort of diving into what's out there, we also started to create opportunities for ourselves. And of course, we're not alone on the creation scene. With that, there's a lot of NGOs that are also doing the institutional work. And this also brings me to the Oaza Books project, because we, in fact, back to 2017, wanted to publish a book about our neighborhood's potential, which was also in connection to this already mentioned Made In project. And it was a book about mapping the crafts potentials of Ilica Street in which we are based. So we actually decided to also register our publishing organization practice, and to publish this book. And so this was the first book that also formed the beginning of the editions, which are called O books, and these are the books that actually are research and design oriented. So gradually, Oaza Books became editions in the field of art, design, and research, as I said, that are curated by ourselves or by the members of Oaza Collective. And this edition arose from the need to articulate critical views derived from our self-initiated work. This one is also, co-published with the partners of Made In project. But it's interesting to us because it also reflects the nature of the project itself, which lies in the close connection of designer to craftsperson or the printer that actually produced the book. So the book is a supplementary artifact of exhibitions organized by the Made In platform, but it also connects excellence in craftsmanship with contemporary design. I'm not going to go formally into each book's design, but this book, as I said, is also content-wise, assuming the role of an archive. This is why it's like so thick and big. It is a result, as I already said, of a close collaboration with craftspeople. It has this uses this black thread as a functional marker ribbon. It has also a screen print on the side. So in various aspects, it reflects this idea of a book that is not only something to read, but also an object that can be evaluated as such. So this edition also is that we started also facilitate is our own projects. This is, for instance, an example of the book, recent book about collectors, about the process of collecting, which is actually a methodology that a lot of the designers are using in their work. And it is meant as a start of the series that will deal with other such phenomena that are particular to design. And so parallel to this process of our own wish to somehow put our own projects into books, year-long collaborator Claudio Stefancic approached us with the idea of making an edition of artist books so we called the edition A book, which is then established through collaboration of various contemporary artists and us as designers. So it's not, in a traditional sense, something that we used to call the artist book, but it's a book made by basically artists and designers, books made by artists and designers together. For instance, I will show some examples. This is Sanja Ivekovic's book. Maybe you are more familiar with her. There's a lot of artists that we work with, and she's one of the more famous ones. It is a flip book that uses 100 stills from a scene that she shot a long time ago at home, and which in the meantime she used in her video Monument Lighthouse. And on the left side of the book there's some parallels of historical movements, protests and political actions which were important to her. We also published another book of Sanja Ivekovic, A Punch in the Eye, which is a witty visual, she says, collage of the email correspondence between her and her friend from a long time ago. Then there's also books that are really like moment or contextually based. This one, for instance, made with in collaboration with Ana Kuzmanic, which is basically a research about COVID influence on the cultural sector. It was published in 2020 and actually realized originally through a website using the collection of various curators, artists, and cultural workers' thoughts, and then it was consequently loosely bounded into this book. Another book that is also interesting and arose after the earthquake that happened in Zagreb, and the artist Maja Markovic, who was collecting and archiving the leftovers of the construction work and then putting them together into nice compositions together with the photographer Boris Cvetanovic. And then the result was this book that is called How We Used to Inhabit. Or, for instance, this book of Nora Turato, which is a book of 32 posters that question the form of a book, coherence, autonomy, and order of words and sentences. And each poster is a bold graphic statement and an extension of her performance practice. And actually, the same way that artist books were organically derived from collaboration with the curator that we already collaborated with, this edition of illustrated books named Oaza and Sons was founded when two of our collective members got kids. So the idea was to start a series of intelligent and inspiring illustrated books for children and adults, and the series emerged from the belief in the transformative power of children's literature as an act of art, pedagogy, ethics, and political practice. And so far we have published 11 books in this series. Here we're also just going to show some of them. Some of them were made with young writers in collaboration with the illustrators, either Croatian or international, and the others were made together with well-known authors such as Dubravka Ugrešić, with whom we produced 3 books so far. So our intention here is to contribute to children's literature which lacks socially engaged topics, unconventional stories, quality visual content, and books of good and quality technical production and performance. So we also choose very carefully the topics that are sometimes kind of also a bit controversial. And it's very important, this artistic dimension of the book. So usually it's also quite expensive in the production. So here we're talking really about quite small editions of, let's say, 300 to 500 pieces. And this brings me to the last edition of the books that we established also a few years ago, and this is the newest edition that we make in collaboration with other publishers, so it's co-publishing projects, and we are involved in these projects mainly as designers. And the proposals actually come from various organizations and institutions. This is, for instance, collaboration with the University of Rijeka, a book that was also accompanying the last performance of Croatia at the Venice Biennial, Architectural Biennial. It's a book, Fiume Fantastica, by Mimica Mrduljaš and Turato, designed by Maša Poljanec. Or, for instance, these type of books that are PhD research studies, also in collaboration by Vijay, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce this well, Vijay Maya Pachinelam, co-published with the University for Applied Sciences of Arts in Antwerp, or the book by Una Bauer, co-published with the Academy of Dramatic Arts in Zagreb. It's a book about the Betko collective. And so to summarize this, since 2017, we've established basically 4 editions of books, out of which a few ones are research and design, and we would like to enhance this number, of course. Artist books, 11 artist books, 11 illustrated books for kids and adults, and a few co-publishing projects with the intention to actually get into more partnerships and establish a more coherent publishing organization. So that's it about the books, and now Maya is going to switch to the Made-in project. Thank you.
Hi everyone, dobro večer. Hvala na pozivu. Moram samo par riječi na naški, jer se u Ljubljani stvarno osjećamo uvijek pozvanom, dobrodošlom i veliki utjecaj zapravo na neki naš profesionalni početak, tako da hvala svim poznatim licima u publici. Thanks for having us. I'll take the second section of this sort of blocks about self-initiated project by Oaza, and this is sort of to give you a genesis of this Made-in Platform project, which is a large-scale project now, but it started on a very local scale, and it has a prominent connection to Ljubljana. So Project Ilica is named after a location where our studio is based that you saw in Ivana's presentation, and it was a self-initiated research of ours where we tried to create sort of a correspondence to our immediate environment. And as you can see here, it lasted for quite a few years, and it was informed, among other things, with the Biennial of Design in Ljubljana, who gave us an opportunity and the trust, basically, to push this case study forward. So to give you a kind of an insight of how and where it all started, this is to show the location of Zagreb. It's a main kind of vessel and a street connecting the east and the western kind of outermost point of the city center. And it was quite well known of its storefronts and that kind of hid away specialized stores and many craftspeople working there. It has also been a home of sorts of the Craftsman Guild, and was sort of inspirational for us to look into the history of something that is currently looking slightly more bleak, let's say. So this was the reality of our everyday commute. It is still, unfortunately, a reality and our surroundings of where we are, where our studio is based. And there was a will and an intention of ours to sort of map it out and see the potential behind this kind of torn down facades. And what we encountered during this period of basically getting to know our new neighborhood and knocking on people's doors and getting to know the people behind those doors is that it's quite rich and vivid with people that shared amazing stories with us, that had their own challenges and struggles, of course, but it helped us understand the potential that this specific city location and a quarter really has in store, which is a large production, locally produced production line that we find interesting, and we were interested basically in finding ways of connecting them with designers, and in the first couple of years basically just interested in giving them a bit more visibility. So after being introduced to many of them, gaining their trust, learning about their ways, we hosted a couple of actions and interventions in this particular area of the city. And we wanted to invite the residents that were living there or working in the area and commuting daily to actually pay attention to some of these discarded places. So one of the actions that we took, aside from guided tours, walks, interviews of sorts, was also to open up sort of like a fictional showroom that was designated to basically show you a collection of items that was produced in Ilica, made in Ilica. And the additional title of the project was Old School Ilica. It was old school mannerisms of people working there, producing particular bits and pieces of artifacts, and we curated it in a small showroom setting to actually invite people to explore the neighborhood further and go into the courtyards down the block, basically. Aside from that, it enabled us to gather people and to invite them to use the spaces there, which wasn't affecting the economy directly, but it did give some sort of an incentive of the direct users there. there were quite a few interactions we had with local groups, and one of the main projects that we've conducted were a series of collaborations directly between the craftspeople and their so-called new apprentices, which was based off of basically submissions of the residents, of people living there who have shown interest in looking into how things are made, who is making them, and learn more about the process behind these storefronts. It resulted after 5 or so years in a few publications. It was also a part of a smaller local neighborhood festival that was also mapping out the remaining participants, so not only focused on the craftspeople, but also about the cultural and other potential that this particular street has. And it was eye-opening to a majority of people living and working in the area, in a sense that they should actually start buying and working towards producing something locally, in a sense. So we are calling this kind of not a revitalization project, but the intention behind it was definitely to use the means of social design in engaging people in this area. It was initially shown as a result, as part of a nanotourism group, which was again shown during Biennial of Design here in Museum of Architecture and Design. And it was quite instrumental in sort of giving us the objective to and the intention to go forward with the project. And we are very grateful for this type of support that we didn't necessarily get back home immediately. This enabled us to start a larger scale project. Even if I'm saying it's a larger scale one, it's still quite small. It grouped organizations from 4 different countries. So aside from Oaza, there was also Museum of Arts and Crafts from Zagreb, the already mentioned Museum of Architecture and Design from Ljubljana, from Serbia, Nova Iskra Creative Hub, an NGO for creative and cultural production, Mixer, another organization dealing with cultural events, and from Austria we teamed up with an association that is run by craftspeople and is an interesting iteration of what we wanted to make. So these are the initial partners, and the project has since evolved, like Aydin already kind of nudged towards. And we are very happy that from this year onwards, we are gathering even more members, and what we are most sort of proud of with this project is that it's not like a typical sort of EU-funded cluster of people and of agents, but rather it formed organically. So we had previous connections and previous collaborations in between each other, so it's enabling us to really do things our way. So from the new members, there is Center Rog from Ljubljana, from Bosnia and Herzegovina, there is Zenica City Museum, and from Germany we are joined with State Art Collection Dresden and their Museum of Decorative Arts, as well as University of Applied Sciences in Zwickau in Schneeberg. And from Portugal we have another small-scale organization that's called Passa ao Futuro, working quite a bit on revitalizing crafts, but also connecting it to contemporary design practices, which was at the core of the project from the very beginning. So to come back to one of the questions that was raised in one of yesterday's discussions, we do see these overlaps in different disciplines as sort of at the core of the project. And some of the responses from the first edition of the project informed some of the decisions for the second year round. But the main sort of structure of it remained the same, meaning that we will produce another archive of crafts and scientific sort of insight into natural materials and phenomena, but at the core of the project there was always trying to find these co-creative practices and bringing craftspeople and designers together to give them basically space to exchange ideas and communicate. And in the first iteration, as it will be in the second one, an exhibition was produced and a book that Ivana already mentioned. These are just some insights into what archiving process looked like. Similarly to the initiated project Inaugural, in a sense, that was done in Ilica. Similarly, it was done under this umbrella of the platform, which allowed us to spread out, and it was done on a different scale for different countries. So in Zagreb, we were still focused on one particular city quarter, where Slovenian mapping was extended broadly towards more like a regional setup. And here are some examples from the Austrian that had an entire region dedicated to very specific and very excellent craftsmanship. This is also an example from Serbia, which is quite a charming one. This brass mold candy making, a very old school, to repeat the name, type of production. It was done through quite lengthy interviews, as you can imagine, and visiting different sites, which was very interesting both for us as mediators in this sense, but also for designers that were introduced to different crafts around the region and were then invited to basically contribute their own interpretation of certain topics. Oaza here had a multiple role, aside from sort of establishing it together with the first few groups of partners. We were also in charge of the entirety of the creative and art direction of the project, so it was quite an intense process, as you might imagine, but it allowed us to actually create this content and curate it till the very end. So what we called narratives in the first edition of the project basically encompassed different collaborations between, again, designers and craftspeople. This is an interesting example that kind of tackles scent, which was mentioned in the previous presentation as well as something that designers are looking more into. And some other projects were looking more into histories of local production, means of local production, how things are being produced, what kind of an impact it has on the environment, and how to actually disclose this type of very complex, often scientific information in new ways. The setup for each of the work was sort of giving at hand of the designers, but it was curated and mediated by each of the partnering organizations. This is an example that was conducted in Zagreb by a group called, a studio called Unfold from Belgium, that were tackling the topic of how to actually preserve the knowledge and preserve the crafts when we are talking about particular examples, such as this man is sort of one of the few remaining comb makers, hand comb makers in Europe. So they employed the use of new technologies in actually preserving this on a level of capturing the motion of these various actions, repetitive actions that the person took during the process. And it's quite informative for the second cycle of the project, because many of the designers were looking into the environmental impacts and into the actual technology and how to employ it in criticizing, questioning, or finding solutions to specific issues that they've encountered locally. Some other projects were solely based on material experimentation and very fine craftsmanship. And we also did a series of workshops with younger groups of people, students and young professionals who were interested more in experimentation in the materials itself and exploring the actual notion of what the production behind any specific industrialization means. Some of these projects, which we are very happy about, have a second, like an afterlife after the end of the project. So some of these things that started as a student workshop continued and is informing the practices of individual designers, which is basically what the platform was set to do from the very beginning. The results of the entirety of the projects were then shown in a series of exhibitions. Here you see it in the local Ljubljana museum, and was touring around the partnering organizations' countries, which enabled us to also gather sort of different responses from the audiences there. What is important for us was also to use this sort of, not to just turn it into a gallery and a museum setup necessarily, but also to use these spaces to communicate about these larger topics of material extraction, of material use, and all these topics that were underlying in many of the residencies, and to actually engage the audiences in discussing this. So creating this space for discussion around this was also a very important part of the project, and the project wouldn't be possible to go forward if it didn't involve a large number of people, both those that were directly involved or that took part in visiting some of the programs, participating in many of the discursive seminar-style events. So we are quite thankful for this attention. The results of the former edition, but also some snippets of the new one, can be found on this platform. It is currently being repurposed and redesigned for the next round, but everything in detail can be seen there. And this is not to brag, but to show that something that started as a basically private or not intimate, but like informal initiative of a group of designers, it's nice to see this sort of trajectory ending up with some formal recognition. Again, this is not something that self-initiated projects, at least in this region, often comes by. So we are quite grateful for this reception from the public and from the professional crowd. And the project also took a few other forms after its completion. So it was turned into a semi-experimental movie that was shown on Oslo Triennial of Architecture last year. And it also enabled us to kind of delve more into the storytelling behind the initial ideas. And like I mentioned, it is continuing to grow, and from this year, from 2023, for the next 2 years, it is going to focus more on topics of, like I mentioned, natural resources and exploitation, and basically working with materials today and what it means. In Croatia, it will deal more specifically with the seascape and the sea sources. We are based in Rijeka, working closely with the organization Drugo More, and we'll have quite a few activities happening there. So it's relatively close to Ljubljana. Make sure to sort of pay attention to some of the announcements if you want to join, take part, or participate. It will deal with Rijeka's marine and environment, also dealing with the sea, but also with the built environment around it, and the impact of tourism and that it has on the ecosystem there. And we will have 3 different residencies again, one of which would be a Slovenian-based artist, Robertina Šebjanić. Another one would be a current director of material and design research at Atelier Luma. And the last one would be probably provided by ourselves. So we are quite excited on what's coming next in terms of where this project is going to go. So this is it in a nutshell.
So, thank you very much. This is absolutely fantastic. So, the organizers have been basically warning me that we will have to start at 7, but I think still we can squeeze maybe 2 questions. So if anybody has a question, please raise hands.
Thank you for your great presentation. I was just wondering if you could be a bit more specific about the financial part of the project, especially because, as I understood, it started as self-initiated project. So who did you apply for some open call, or was it founded by any other institution, or was it only your funds? And then what was the step between this small project and how involved financially, and who was supporting it? Thanks.
So to be very blunt, it essentially comes down to funding and financing. So similarly to the publishing project that Ivana first presented, we were encouraged to do it ourselves. So when we are calling it self-initiated, it is referring to the first couple of years where we were securing the funds for any type of activity locally by ourselves through an entity of an art organization. So we are registered as that. For it to grow bigger, we needed to form a network. So there was an alliance already made through different cooperations between museums and cooperation with the Creative Hub in Belgrade. So it formed rather organically, but for us to actually pursue the project, we needed to apply for Creative Europe funds. So it's quite a lot of bureaucracy that we didn't expose, a lot of more work in Excel sheets and so forth, which enabled us to work on it on this level. It is still a limited amount of funds, so it's not on a national scale, let's say, but it did allow us to keep the freedom and the creative freedom in making certain choices or sort of hand-picking who we are selecting to collaborate with.
It's of course, it's of course a lot of voluntary work as well. So, you know, once you have an idea, you start like thinking how to fund it, and then the idea is usually to actually do more of the client-based work and then finance that to voluntarily work on something that you actually have a vision about.